proponent of that. Now, one of the problems we've got is there's real cost issues. To take the mobile slaughterhouse, now I'm talking beef and pork here, not chickens. Chickens is an easier deal. But for beef and pork, to take that mobile slaughterhouse around to each farm for one animal, you know, great big semi-trailer, that's going to get so expensive I don't think it's going to work. So the thing that I've suggested to people is a concept I call docking stations. Now computers, laptops have docking stations, you know, with a full keyboard and everything. Well, you could set up docking stations, which would be a concrete slab, water and sewer hook up, and the chutes, you know, simple chute system would be there. The trailer could back up, and you'd have them at the fairgrounds, at an auction market, maybe a farm, and then it would move to a different location every week to 2 weeks on a schedule. And that's going to be something I think that'll be a lot more doable. The other problem that we got to solve is how to get rid of all the innards. You know, some people are composting that, but that can be a problematic issue because you can't just throw them down the sewer, that's for sure, and you can't just take blood and put it down the sewer because you'll spend a fortune on charges from the city. Okay?
Do you see a general trend coming either now or in the next 20 years of people moving away from eating animals, either a decrease or just going vegan or vegetarian?
Well, the question was if more people become vegetarians. Well, if you want to be organic, I don't know what you're going to fertilize the crops with. If we're going to have more synthetic stuff to totally get rid of eating animals. The other thing is that there's a lot of land, especially if you go up north here on I-25. There's a lot of land up there where the only thing you could do on that land is raise grazing animals. That'd be cattle, sheep, goats, you know, deer, elk. There's nothing else you could do on that land. I can see in the future corn prices going up, you know, feeding out animals is getting more and more expensive. But there's a place for animals. Let's just look at chickens. You know, somebody down in Mexico, they have a few chickens running around. That gives their kids some really, really much needed protein. Also, soy's not so wonderful. It has tons and tons of hormones in it. Tons and tons, and it naturally just has it. You know, there's a lot of trade-offs, and I'm for moderation. Okay, let's pick somebody else. Okay, right there.
What is your view on all the E. coli outbreaks?
What's my view on all the E. coli outbreaks? It's going to be a scary world with more and more mutated germs. It isn't just E. coli. This melon thing is listeria. And I've been following that, and they don't know where it came from. And this latest E. coli that was on bean sprouts, they're pretty sure that came out of the stomach of an immunocompromised human being. So you can't blame cattle now for all of it. The antibiotic resistant stuff is getting downright scary. I'll tell you another interesting thing. You've probably heard about Monsanto and their Roundup Ready soybeans. You know, and you can spray the Roundup all around. It doesn't kill the soybeans, but it kills the weeds because they biotech the soybean to be resistant to glyphosate. Guess what? Weeds revenge. Weeds have now developed a resistance. Sort of like evolution meets Monsanto, you know, sort of thing. So it's and another interesting thing they did, the scientists had just learned about antibiotic resistance is that the genes for antibiotic resistance are old because most of the antibiotics have come from natural substances. So in order to beat that rap, we're going to have to come up with something totally synthetic. You know, because that's a new finding that just was published in the last couple of weeks. You know, it could be, I'm concerned about antibiotic resistance. I have had 2 antibiotic-resistant urinary tract infections, and if Cipro doesn't work, I wouldn't be here.
What do you think of Petit's and horse slaughter?
What do I think of horse slaughter? That is a very, very, very hot potato. And what I have found in the horse community, when I look at people that have horses, half are against it, half are for it. Now, one of the things I am very concerned about is tons and tons of horses are going down to Mexico, and it's beyond hideous. Absolutely hideous. And when I ask people, that are against horse slaughter what they're going to do about it, they say they're going to rescue all the horses. Well, last January, there was a horse summit. and I was going to speak there, and I got some like rather nasty emails and stuff. And I called up this one lady who wrote me a very nasty email, and she raised purebred horses. I think I'll leave the breed out of it so I don't identify her. And I said, what do you do with your horses when you're showing them when they're too old to show? She says, well, I euthanize them. What I found out is she didn't object to euthanizing them. What she objected to was eating them. Well, the only problem is when you don't eat them, it's very, very expensive. And right now, they're just rounding up the horses. They're going to Mexico. They go to some horrible abattoir down there, and they stab them in the back of the neck. And if you think you can close that Mexican border, you're smoking something. Because the way the Mexican border works is Homeland Security only stops you from coming back in. And they'll just launder them as breeders and riding horses and fake up the papers and take them across in horse trailers rather than in big semi-trailers. This is something that's a real mess. And I said, give me proposals on what to do with the horses. Well, I haven't seen any of their proposals come to fruition yet. You know, you've got something here where some people ethically feel that eating them is wrong because they're companion animal. But then when you ask them, what are you going to do about the Mexico problem, they just go on telling me that it's wrong to eat them. So you got a real mess there. Going to Mexico is horrible.
Is it bad to feed cattle corn and why?
Is it bad to what?
Feed cattle corn?
Feed cattle corn? Feeding cattle corn is like having a diet of cake and ice cream. And cows love it. They love to eat junk food. Now, one of the problems we got today is ethanol plants. I think corn ethanol is a very questionable thing. There's no net energy gain on corn ethanol. The price of corn has doubled. It's trashed the chicken market right now. And, you know, if you were to grow sugar beets, you get 3 times more ethanol. Now, why have we got all these ethanol plants? It's pure politics. Pure and simple. Buying an election. Go on the internet, you figure it out. You know, the corn lobby, making a lot of money doing that. But it's, you know, I have ethical problems with the food being made into fuel. You know, and some people in agriculture will say, well, field corn's not eaten by people. That's a pile of rubbish. What do you think cornflakes are? Corn tortillas, cornbread, you know, corn chips, Fritos. Those are all made out of corn.